first of all, welcome everyone. Yes, yay us. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm really excited. For any of you in the who have joined us, any of the participants who don't know, my name is Keely. I'm your moderator today, and we have an incredible group of panelists. Going down my screen, we have Janet Trevino, Faye Wyatt, Samantha Hess, and Madeline Guinazzo. Incredible pioneers in our industry. And I'm going to have them introduce themselves for about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and kind of tell us who they are. But before I do, I want to take a quick moment to recognize, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time in the history of our industry that multiple industry leaders from varying companies around the country have ever been in the same virtual space. So we're setting history, and I'm really, really excited and really honored to be a part of this with all of you incredible people. My friends, colleagues, mentors are here, and that's really exciting. So let's go down the list, and it's just an order of what's on my screen. Janet, will you tell us a little bit about you, just the quick version?
Yes, I live in San Antonio, Texas, so I am representing the South. Woo! And and so I'm a creatrix of Touches Medicine and also Retouch, which is rehabilitative touch therapy. And my heart, my reason for doing all this is that I'm here to create really brave spaces for people to figure out who they are, what they want, and how to ask for it. And the medium that I've chosen to use is platonic touch and cuddling, but really when it really comes down to it, I see in all my clients that this is kind of where they get stuck. And so, who are you? And yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it.
I love it. Thank you. Next on my screen is Faye. Faye, what company do you come to us from, and who are you?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Faye Wyatt. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm wearing kind of two hats today. One of the companies that I represent is Cuddle Sanctuary, for which I'm the Chief Cuddle Officer. So I'm kind of in charge of the cuddling practice, and also a lot of the education, because I teach other professional cuddlers how to do this work. And then the other hat that I'm also wearing is as the creator of CuddleXpo, and it's a little overwhelming in a good way to see how many of you are here today, because this was my vision, is to get us talking to each other about this work. And it's only in the connection that we create that we can bring this industry to the next level. So my vision for doing this work is really about bringing people closer to themselves, closer to each other, to one another. And I guess I'm doing that today by bringing us closer together too.
Share the same virtual space. I love it. Mm-hmm. Next on my screen is Samantha. Tell us a little bit about you and the company you come from.
Hello, I am from Portland, Oregon. I have two companies. I have Certified Cuddlers and Cuddle Up to Me. Certified Cuddlers is a brand I started to create certification online and in-person training. Our programs are 30 and 40 hours long, and we've now trained more than 70 people around the world. Which is exciting. The Cuddle Up to Me is our retail studio here in Portland. It's an 1,800 square foot retail space where we host one-on-one professional cuddling in 4 very unique themed rooms. And then we also host community events like consent and boundary setting workshops, Cuddle Sanctuary style group cuddle events. All of our staff has been trained by Cuddle Sanctuary as well for group facilitation. I'm also the author of Touch, The Power of Human Connection. I've been a professional cuddler since 2013. I have more than 140,000 minutes of professional cuddling under my belt. Over 400 media interviews, including America's Got Talent, the Wall Street Journal, oh, you're so sweet, United States of America. I tend to be known as the cuddler who offends people because I scared Neil Patrick Harris and W. Kamau Bell. I swear I'm very nice most of the time. My personal belief is that we all go through moments in life where we feel unloved, unappreciated, or just plain lost. And it's my mission to make sure that every single person has a safe place to know they matter and they're loved as they are.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, for bringing your cuddle celeb to the room. And then last on my screen is Madeline. Tell me a little bit about you and your company.
Hi, thank you, Keely. I am Madeline Guarnazo. I am the co-founder and chief certification officer for Cuddleist, the creator of that certification. And I really want to start by saying thank you. What an honor to be in the collection of these other women. I am privileged to consider all of you friends, and that means a lot to me. And I want to say, you know, what Faye said, this is walking the talk, all of us being together. This is what we stand for in the world. So, you know, at Cuddleist, our vision is a more loving, respectful, and self-expressed world, one person at a time. And, you know, our philosophy is based in the practitioner, supporting the practitioner as much as possible in their self-love, their self-empowerment, their inner sense of safety, and making choices based on that. And that's the foundation for the therapeutic effect of our work and every satisfactory client interaction. So at heart, I'm a communication geek. I have a degree in communications from Northwestern University, and I came to this work through that venue. 2009 is when I think I officially, you know, started in the Cuddle industry doing workshops on consent and communication. Apologies for that. And that was under the nonprofit organization of Cuddle Party. And the Cuddleist certification training has grown out of that. So I certify facilitators all over the world to do consent workshops. And with Cuddleist and creating that training, I get to connect with people all over the world as well who are wanting to step into this field, step into this industry, to embody it and to have some guidance. And, you know, we've certified over 100 people now internationally. And it's exciting. It keeps growing.
Yay! Thank you for telling us about you. We do have a silent participant. The last member of the CuddleXpo team, Lisa, is going to be our tech guru for the event. So here's how this next hour is going to go. I'm going to be asking everyone questions kind of about the industry, about your personal practice, about what your thoughts are on our industry. As we go, as you're answering questions, we're going to try to keep this pretty loose, but I'm going to have a timer next to me. If it gets over 3 to 5 minutes per person, then I might just say, hey, let's go to the next person. So that's all that is just being mindful of time so we can get to some of the really good questions. And participants out there, if you have a question, please feel free in the chat box to ask your question. You can do it throughout the presentation, throughout the panel discussion, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. So any of those questions that you've asked throughout the presentation, I'll go back through and start asking those during our Q&A period. If you put a little asterisk by your question, it means that what we'll do is our guru of tech will turn on your camera, then you'll click the allow, and you can ask it in person. If you don't want to ask it in person, if you'd just rather do it by text, that's easy. We'll just leave it on the chat. So that's kind of the structure of it. We'll leave the last 15 to 20 minutes for the Q&A section of this. Does anyone have anything that would like or burning to share? Any burning questions before we get going? Or are you ready for the first question? I see some smiles. I see some nods. All right, let's jump in. So the first question I have is, how did you get into this business? What's kind of your origin story? Is anyone feeling called to go first? You can jump in.
So I'll be the one that's a little taboo. I am, I guess, a sexuality educator. And so I've been doing that for a couple of years before I got into this. I did a class with Dr. Susan Kay, and she is a sexologist here in this area. And she invited me to be in a conversation around sex over 50. Now, I am not over 50 in any way, and I sat with her. And as I listened to her talk to our audience, she was, you know, I thought we were talking about sex, but it wasn't about sex. It was actually about touch and connecting and really slowing things down and really being present with each other. And that's when it clicked. I realized sex, even though it is taboo, it's something that we're accustomed to seeing. We're accustomed to, like, we know that everyone's kind of doing it, but really platonic touch is the thing that is, in my opinion, more taboo than sex is. And I wanted to be part of creating a conversation and bringing in platonic touch into the world, something that, again, we're not really used to hearing about, much less seeing. So yeah, that's kind of how I started.
Yeah, I love it.
And then of course I went to CuddleXpo, and I had friends that were in the program, and yes, and that part, just like, that was easy. That was a really easy part.
That snowballed for you.
Of course.
I'll go next, since we're kind of, it just makes sense to me. I started out in this world wanting to do something that would bring what I thought was a gift. I still do, I think, is this gift for unconditional acceptance and love. I have an easy time with that. And I also have been obsessed with intimacy and relationships pretty much my entire life. And, you know, that obsession plays out in different ways in my own relationships, and also in the type of work that I've been drawn to. So I went to school for psychology, and I really thought that being an MFT, a marriage and family therapist, was my next step. And I kind of put the career thing on hold. I thought that my life trajectory would involve being a homemaker, and you know, a homemaker with part-time work. So I still do some of that stuff from the world before. Like, I teach piano, and I also manage apartment buildings. Those are things that I could do part-time if I were a full-time mom. That didn't happen. Life just did not turn out that way for me, and I still don't have children. And I found myself at this sort of crossroads of, how do I make my life meaningful now that I don't have motherhood kind of at the pinnacle of my achievements? Motherhood and church service was what I had thought. I was like, let's go there. And at that time, during that time of questioning, I saw a couple of articles. One of them was about the snuggery. I remember very clearly the picture of Jackie Samuels, you know, spooning somebody else. And she talked very openly about what you do when you have a boner. And I was like, ooh, that's weird, but like, that's not weird to me. I recognize both things simultaneously. I was like, wow, this is a thing. And I started thinking, wow, I could have a nap spa. There were like all these ideas. I always have ideas popping up in my head. I was like, cool, maybe for someone else. And then I saw, you know, that clued me into professional cuddling. And at the time, a lot of the people that I was seeing doing that work were doing it with more of like an escort type kind of bent to the work. And then I saw an article on Samantha Hess, who is here with us now. and Sam talked so much about unconditional love. And I was like, that's how I'm going to do it. So January 2015, I jumped in. I went to my first Cuddle Sanctuary event. I reached out to Cuddle Party. I did, you know, I went to CuddleCon. I did everything that I could to put myself in the world. I wanted to know what this industry was like. And it was just a train that took me to where I am. It's really been the perfect place. I think I said once, like, I feel like I'm at the center of my life now. And it's very selfish in a way. Yes, I want to do good in the world, but being a professional cuddler for me has meant that I get to grow in the way that I'm interested in growing, and that I get to work with people in the way that I love. So yeah, that's me.
What a heart story. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Samantha, Madeline, who wants to go next?
I'll jump in. Yeah, thank you, Samantha. It's so inspiring to listen to these stories. These you are the people, the loving, respectful, self-expressed people. That's the world I want to live in. That's the change I want to see. And so this is a field of people following their own passion, following their own truth and excitement. So I'm no different. You know, I was a very, growing up and in adolescence, I discovered that I was more loving than most people. And that didn't always, wasn't always perceived the way I wanted it to be, the way I was intended. I remember being told at one point by a mother figure in my life that I shouldn't hug people so much or they'd get the wrong idea about me. And I felt so shamed. I know. And inside there was this voice that was like, no, that's not right. You know, it's not, I shouldn't be less loving. The world should be more loving. Like, you know, as this angsty teenager, how do I make that happen? And so that was the beginning of this, I've always asked that question, how can I love better? how can I love better? And to me, that means in a way that is more well received. How can I meet people where they're at so that I'm not struggling with them? Let me love you, but I'm like, with that compassion and hearing what is the next step for them to open up. And discovering that I'm more open and happy when I'm in that place of listening and seeing their innate goodness. And a lot of it honestly had to do with learning boundaries and understanding boundaries and my valid needs, validating my own needs and my self-care around that. So my struggles with codependency really led me to Cuddle Party, which was the consent workshop, and then having an embodied experience of asking, identifying, saying no and yes, and all these empowering tools combined with oxytocin, combined with a calm nervous system, combined with being held by another person. And to me, that was kind of the magic combination. So I started for months, I brought a facilitator in from out of state every month and, hosted these workshops. At the same time, in my other life, it's always been about authentic communication and courageous vulnerability. Was something that I always wanted. How can we show people the inside, the things that are scary, because they have them too. They just need to see that they're not alone. And so sharing that, acting was, theater arts, communication, and coaching med students. So I developed a career working with med students, teaching them how to develop rapport and trust with their patients, which was very rewarding for me. It still is. I do that. I teach them examination techniques. I work with healthcare practitioners regularly, and seeing that brought it into a professional context, and to see how powerful the professional container is in which to do that when people are most vulnerable and need that support. So I guess it's the culmination of all of those things, finding a way to channel all of the love I have given my self-care, self-awareness, respect, and communication, working in the professional container, working with touch. And at one point I was just, asking the universe, like, I need like a business coach or a business partner or something. And then within a month, I think Adam Lippin showed up in Keely's living room. She's nodding her head because we were doing a training for Cuddle Party facilitators, and Adam Lippin showed up, and I became his mentor in the program. And he said, "Are you interested in doing this? Would you be interested in a business proposal?" And I had been seeing clients individually for a while at that point, and really brainstorming, how could I take the workshop setting, put it in the individual container, and create a training for that. So I feel like I'm going on too long. So I'll go to Rep. No.
You're good.
I can tell I'm excited about this. But that was it. So Adam and I, that was where Cuddleist was born, was in the fall of 2015, with this idea of bringing together my passion and experience and savvy around communication and cuddling and touch, his business experience and know-how, and he has a background in yoga and meditation and spirituality, and it's growing so much. So here we are, and I'm looking forward to sharing a lot more at CuddleXpo.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Samantha, are you ready to go?
Of course. Okay, so let's see. My story has been shared a lot, so I'll try and find a new way to kind of dig into it. So let's see. I am someone who grew up in a life of trauma, just like everybody else. So in my childhood, I got very lucky in that there was never any real abuse for me, but I grew up with an alcoholic mother who abused her prescription medications, a father who abused her physically, and saw a lot of terrible things nobody should see, and had to learn a lot of coping mechanisms really early on in my life. I then ended up marrying my high school sweetheart, who had a very unhealthy codependent relationship with me, and I ended up putting myself in this kind of subservient role, and decided that, I needed to do what was right for my marriage instead of for me, and ended up in this incredibly depressing, horrible situation for myself where my needs didn't matter, and what I wanted and needed was never addressed. And so I ended up with almost no touch for 10 plus years of my life before finally deciding that I actually do matter. And you know what? I can be a whole person on my own. Like, it doesn't have to be this way anymore. All while doing that, my best friend died in a car crash at the age of 20, plane crash. She was training to be a pilot. Cried every day for 3 years. I'd never lost anybody in my life. I was 20 years old as well. And I had, by the time I was 24, I'd been in 8 different car accidents as a passenger. And so I'd lived my entire life dealing with chronic pain and understanding the impact touch can have in a negative way based on my own interactions, and realizing how much pain just basic touch when somebody hugs me, and like back then it was way worse. I also started life really overweight. And it was something that I struggled with, huge body image issues, and I hated myself for so many years for so many different reasons. And it took me a really long time to overcome these things. And, you know, for me, life is really a never-ending series of struggles and challenges and beauty and amazement and all of these things rolled into one. And there is no waiting to be happy for me in my world anymore, because I know that that train doesn't actually stop. And so I've learned how to overcome obstacles while still moving and providing space for myself and other people at the same time, making sure that I matter first, always, and realizing that any guilt and shame that I have around that doesn't matter. Emotions aren't rational. What does matter is that I take care of myself so that I can be better, able to take care of others too. And so here I am, Cuddle Up to Me, certified cuddlers, CuddleCon, and touch the power of human connection. I've been able to make my mark and create an atmosphere where we can grow and learn as an industry and together. It's been a really cool journey.
You didn't know it, but you gave the perfect segue.
Oh, good. I love it when that happens.
Yeah, I love that when that happens. You mentioned at the end of your really beautiful story, being here and in this industry, and this being the first time that all of these industry leaders are in the same virtual space. Can you tell me what you think your company and your specific unique thing is that you bring to the table? What is your personal take on this thing that we call professional cuddling?
Is that back to me?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. So my take is that I am the super detail-oriented person. So my approach to this is that we all have very specific personalities, and in order for this to grow, we can't just have a clone army of me. That'd be the craziest thing ever. So what I want to do is create an environment where people can take the tools and resources that I've developed over thousands and thousands of hours, and apply it to their own personality so that they can use the tools and resources to create something that's uniquely them. So for me, it's really creating the details and tools so that every person can create their own unique flow and safety and security methods that work for them individually.
I love that. Yeah, Faye, you want to go next?
I didn't have the intention of going next, but I just want to say that having experienced Samantha's sort of legacy of her work, even though you're still creating, you're not done yet. There's 2 pieces I think that were really huge for you that I've seen. Number one is just as a spokesperson for this work being platonic. I don't think that existed as a thought until you came along and spoke to, I don't even know how many press sources, you probably have a count, but so many of us found this work because of you. And it's it's in markets that are a little bit more developed, like where I live, it's not a raise your eyebrow, this has to be sex work anymore. And that's, that's a lot to do with your work. And number 2, and this is influence in my own practice and also in the training that Cuddle Sanctuary teaches, because both Jean and I, who developed Cuddle Sanctuary's training, went to Samantha's training as well. And the poses that you have and all of the detail around that has really changed the way that I cuddle and has allowed me to create so many beautiful experiences for clients that I would not have had the tools for otherwise. And so there's this craft of cuddling that it's still new, it's still being developed. But I would say that you are the founder of this sort of when you go to massage school, you have hands-on training around how to touch. And I think that is your hugest contribution is that craft.
Snaps. Snaps to that for sure. It can be really hard to kind of talk ourselves up, right? So thank you, Faye, for your perception also of what someone else's contribution has been. I think that's perfect. It's a perfect add-on. Since you jumped in, would you like to go?
Would I like to go? Sure. I'm still figuring out my unique contribution. CuddleXpo is it right now.
Yes.
But I'll tell you what I care a lot about. One of the things that brought CuddleXpo along is I care a lot about this work being done ethically. And ethically, I mean for our safety and our sustainability and health, and also for the health and sustainability of our customers and our clients. I have a background in psychology, and so a lot of the ways that I saw this work happening was around the therapeutic model, which is, I'm realizing, very different in many ways from what we do, and very similar in others. And so what I would like to bring to the table is to be a bridge between the different forms of how this work is done. Because cuddling can open up such a wide spectrum of experiences, from coaching, like intimacy coaching, which is what I love to do, as well as just simple companionship. And that's really powerful. And what I would like to do is just to open the door for all of us to speak with one another and not be ashamed of the work that other people are doing that we may not want to do in that way. So that's sort of where I'm at. And I want to be able to bring support to practitioners who choose to do cuddling work in a more escort-like way. I want to bring them the same core of like boundaries and communication and ethics so that they can do it safely for themselves and also for the clients. That's it.
I love that. Thank you.
I want to jump in.
Yeah, Madeline, do your thing.
Yeah, I want to jump in by following Faye's example and acknowledging her for being a bridge and building bridges, because I think so much of this work is about walking our talk and embodying what it is that we're here to bring. And when Samantha and Hess and I first connected individually on our own, it was kind of bumpy. It wasn't very smooth, and we had some ouchies in there. And I want to just thank Faye so much, because Faye came in having this huge respect and love and connection for each of us, and she tirelessly really worked to bring out the best in us. That's been my experience, that, I give you, Faye, credit for your vision and holding each of us in our highest and softening us so that we could come together. And I have so much appreciation for Samantha, so much gratitude for the connection, and excitement about the possibility of synergizing our work, which CuddleXpo is a big part of that. I've already connected with Janet and Keely. So thank you for that, Faye. I really do see you as a beautiful bridge of love and openness and connection and creativity. So my vision, what I bring, I think I've already talked about the communication geek, aspect. My focus in this is on personal growth. It's on self-empowerment. It's on self-love. It's learning to trust ourselves by making choices, by noticing ourselves very exquisitely and paying good attention, giving ourselves consideration. In that process, my vision as a modality is really to transform the client practitioner, so that the sort of therapist, doctor, superior, someone who's wounded and needs to be fixed model, into we're two human beings and we have our own experiences, and we know that life can be difficult. And when you have somebody there who can hold you, see you in your highest with unconditional positive regard, who knows your humanity and can reflect that back to you, to see you with delight and approval, that is healing in itself. That's therapeutic, and it helps us remember who we really are. And so that's my vision. And also, I say a lot, to our trainees and cuddlists and practitioners, it takes a village. So my vision is I want cuddlists to be the village, here that we're all supporting each other in this. So cuddlist is a training, but it's a membership. The training is that sort of like, we want you to come in. It's our screening process. Like, are you a good fit for this? Are you on the same alignment? Does this feel good to you? Does it feel good to us? And in that place, we have a membership where we connect you with like-minded practitioners all over the world to share best practices, to inspire each other, to be there to uplift each other when the world doesn't get it, or when the world projects some of that stuff onto us that isn't us. It's not who we are, or where we're coming from, and the shame that's collectively being held to say, no, I see you. I know what you're working for. I'm also, the vision that Adam and I hold with Cuddlist is bringing this into, the validity that we're all building together is what makes the perception of safety in the mainstream, so that assisted living facilities, hospice care, veterans, people with PTSD, that, all these segments of the population that are just sponges waiting to, receive what we have to offer, that all of our practitioners too can have, a gateway in to those markets and those populations. So that's a big part of my vision for Cuddlist as well.
To tie this into what you said, it's Robert Kendall, the previous presenter, talked about having, as the foundation for your business, having a support system, having that group of support. And I love that that is part of your mission, and that CuddleXpo is extending that. We're creating that so we can all have more successful businesses.
It's an important part of self-care, right? You have to, surround yourself with allies.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Janet, are you ready to go?
Yes, I'm here. So how I differ from all of you, and this is, I think, is super important. Y'all are working on practitioners and creating like the right type of people for this industry. That's not my job. What I am working diligently is on the clients. And so all the stuff that I create, all of the videos, I now have, and I guess I can call them clients. I have clients all over the world that contact me who are telling me about their experiences, who also have practitioners that they work with, but they can't communicate with them, or they're trying to figure stuff out. So they come to me. They talk to me. I'm collecting these stories. I'm collecting their experiences, and I'm creating content for them. And so think of me as, while you all are creating practitioners, I'm creating your clients. And I'm so grateful how many times people have told me, thank you for your videos, because I now have a client because of you. Because they can't come see you, but you know what? They live in Minneapolis, or they live in San Francisco, and I looked up my person near me, and it's worked out beautifully. So yeah, let me do that. Let me talk to the clients, create your client base if I can.
You're creating the market. You're grooming our market. It's huge.
And so many people have come to find us because of your videos. You're right. And I love the way that you educate. I love your video of like how not to ask me for a session, and how to talk to your cuddlists about this. It's great. The thing I love about you is, Janet, is how you really listen to the people that you're serving. And that's how you became a cuddlist and a touch, therapeutic touch practitioner.
I'm only doing the things that people tell me. So if y'all think I'm creating some amazing stuff, it doesn't come from me. My clients tell me, and people send me emails. Check out the comments in my YouTube videos. They're talking to me. They're telling me. They're letting me know what they're doing with you. And I think if you are a whichever kind of practitioner you are, it's funny because I'm talking to your clients and you don't even know I'm talking to them. And that's like I'm like, do I tell them? No. I don't, they're my clients, right? So yeah, it's kind of, I get the insider of what you're doing. It's kind of interesting. And like, I'll say one right. Keely, I've talked to one of your clients, and beautiful. Like, he had the courage now to tell you some things he was really struggling with, but he just needs someone to say, yes, it's okay. She's super mature. And, I gave him permission. Like, I think she can handle that. For him, he was panicked. He didn't know how he was going to do it. And he did. So, yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. Because there's so much that I can do, that all of us can do in sessions, right? And sometimes you're just too close.
You are right.
Sometimes you're just too close. And
This
it's
is the
so
beauty of
scary to do it while you're there. Touch is already, for people who are coming to this work from a really starved place, they're already so overwhelmed.
And they fall in love with you all, I mean, platonically, right? And they're just so afraid. What if I tell her the one thing, like that she will kick me out, that she won't want to see me anymore? Do you know how threatening that is when it's already a relationship that's been established? That's really scary.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for helping creating my client. So speaking of kind of creating clients, Robert Kendall earlier called it blue ocean market. This isn't something that we've all had to be pioneers. We pioneered this because, and you have all done this. What was that like for you? What are your struggles and successes around creating a market? They're not small questions.
Yeah, I can jump in. I mean, I may have more to say because, right, it's not a small question. That's the tip of the iceberg. But the starting point for me was creating this training. I'm going to get a little emotional because the first time, I presented this training and it was really just based on my experience working with clients, what in my gut was, I was passionate about what I knew from Cuddle Party, from consent communication. I guess it was based on my whole life experience, right? But I put it together in a very simple kind of a nuts and bolts way. And I held the first training. I think Keely was there. It was in a friend's living room in Chicago. And I did so for quite a while after that, just by video like this with people around the country where we would do it. And finally, when it got online, starting to see how it spoke to so many people, to see people showing up from all over the world and from Australia and from Europe, from, looking in the training going, this is amazing. This is, that was so much. What is it? It's like I put out a signal. It's like I put out a little signal. It's like a tuning fork. If you hit a tuning fork and it vibrates, and suddenly I realized that I hadn't been realized before that there were all these other tuning forks with the same vibration, like all over that started resonating with what I had put out. And so it was this kind of humbling and beautiful experience that there was already a market out there. I just had to have the courage to speak my truth and to share what I had to share. And so many people saying, this is amazing. I didn't know this was possible. And then in the sense of the village, other practitioners creating videos and getting the word out and people finding the training. So I guess that's basically the first thought. What it's been like to create a market has been this humbling realization that I'm not alone. And that there's so many other like-minded people out there. And thank you, Janet, for really developing the client base. I mean, a lot of people come to the training, they're like, am I a practitioner or am I a client? And I'm like, well, the first step to being a practitioner is to be a client. Like walk in your client's shoes, receive this and see how it feels and have that compassion. And then if you're a practitioner, keep being a client. Go see somebody regularly for your self-care and do this. And, we have many clients who come to the training and said, I've gotten so much out of this, I want to pay it forward. Hello.
Yeah, Sam.
Okay, so from my point of view, when I started, there were literally 6 people in the world who I could find who did this work. And there was just like nothing, and there was no one, and I was just like, oh my God, how do I even start? And so I literally scoured the internet for massage waivers and things, because I didn't even know how to begin. And so there weren't resources, there weren't people for me to reach out to and be like, what are the things that you did? What can I gain from your insight? I had to come up with all of it from my own head and start from scratch. I took 6 months to develop this waiver. I hired a lawyer. I got like a legal opinion drafted to make sure I wasn't like going to go to jail. It was really kind of scary. And, when I started, this was an extremely polarizing topic. And I've gotten death threats, and I had someone call my parents at like 2 a.m. the night after I was on CNN and threatened to have kidnapped me. And they were like asking for like $25,000. And like, I turned my phone off at night. So my parents were freaking out all night. Like, there's been a lot of really scary things. I've had, stalkers and people do, some frightening things because I put myself out there as this public figure for this industry that didn't really exist as a whole field yet. And so for me, it was really frightening. There's a ton of like internet trolls and people attacking me on every front constantly. And it was rough. I can't tell you how many times at the end of the day, I just cried my eyes out. I just couldn't handle it anymore. And it was really hard to make this happen. And it took more than I thought I had to give. And I almost gave up a million times. And there's just something in me that like knows that I had this to give. I did have that ability to make room for this and to get people to understand that platonic touch is different than sexual touch, and it doesn't have to overlap, And I've worked really hard to create a safe foundation for everybody to do this work, and I'm really proud of everybody who's putting themselves out there and being willing to have those awkward conversations and deal with the taboos and the awkward looks and the like confused, requests and all of those things. And so, I'm one very small part of this, and it's all of you guys that make this a thing that matters.
Thank you, Samantha.
Samantha, I'm so glad you didn't give up. I'm echoing what Karen and Susie and Mary are all saying in the chat box, and thank you. If it were me in your position, I don't know if I would have lasted through all that.
It sucked.
Yeah. What you did is incredible. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, I honor your resilience, your determination and strength, and for paving the way for the rest of us. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
I can speak.
Janet and Faye, who would like to go next?
I'll go next.
Yeah, Janet, go ahead.
So I've never told anyone this. The reason I created videos, right? How did that all begin? Was because I was getting tired answering the same questions over and over again. It's really simple. Like, you know what? I will answer question once, maybe twice, but after that I'm like, nope, won't do it again. I'm just gonna make a video because that way I can just send the person the link, right? Like, they can get to know me. There's so many ways you can just hit like all the boxes, right? Like get to know me and learn some great content. And so I just made these quick videos. I just made them on Facebook Live and then took the video and posted them on YouTube. And so for me, building a market was more of me just being really lazy. Like, and as much as it looks like I did a lot of work, it was actually me being lazy, not wanting to do all the one-on-one work. And then, okay, now that I've done the video, now do you have questions? And then let's go deeper. Like, let's really connect. Like, so that's how it all began. And yeah, voila.
Yeah. And it's, oh my gosh, how did that work? Right? It worked so well. All I'm saying is what our resilience when we're trying to be lazy can accomplish. It's so great.
Laziness is a door opener for ingenuity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for it. Oh, the biggest thing for me around building the market was like the recognition of what work that would take. Because, I've had in all the other work that I do, I've never had to fish for clients. They would always come to find me. And I never had to worry about marketing. I never had to worry about teaching people the value of what I do and what it is that I do. If you say you're a piano teacher, everybody knows the value of piano lessons. And once they know a piano teacher, they'll send other folks to you. And so when I got this job, I was like, oh, there was a moment of recognition. It was like, okay, this is work. This is going to take some educating. This is going to take a lot of me putting myself out there. And so it's taken, I think, a lot of patience is what it is. I wish that this were a market where we could just say, yeah, be a professional cuddler, that's great money, and it's, you know, really rewarding work. The truth is, when you're stepping it in this even now, you're still being a pioneer. Many of you are in areas where it is a lot newer of a market than even where I am. And so I feel like the biggest challenge is having the responsibility to teach my clients what I do, because they don't know. And in many ways, as an industry, we're still figuring out the scope of what we do. So that's number one. And number two, it's educating other people that this is out there. There are so many people who really need what we have to offer, and people are still getting surprised every day that there's such a thing called professional cuddling. They're like, what? They're still doing that. So I think that was the big thing, is just realizing that there's still room for us to be misunderstood, and doing all the things that we can to show people what that is, and being patient when it's not ready for the plucking yet. It's not low-hanging fruit, but it's good work.
Yeah, Madeline.
Yeah, I just want to comment quick on that is, you know, that cuddling, what? You know, it's a mixed blessing because we get so much press. Mm-hmm. And I want to give my Cuddleist co-founder some props here for, you know, Adam Lippin is amazing, and Samantha has too. I mean, you know, for really what it takes to jump on that, you know, press, and to be there and to show up for those, and to corral the resources to continually educate and take the opportunity to let our voices be heard, and of all the other practitioners, and to say this is what it is, and to put up with the snide comments and the poking fun and the ridiculing, but really maximizing that opportunity, because most new businesses would die for the kind of publicity that we get. And, you know, one of the beautiful things about Cuddleist is because we have representatives all over the country and in other countries, when we get press from London and people say, oh, we've got a Cuddleist we can refer you to, and, you know, so can we do an interview? And so we give press opportunities to our practitioners as well.
I will say that's definitely a huge part of Cuddle Sanctuary's success, is that Jean has had this incredible, you know, online presence from the very beginning of our business at Cuddle Sanctuary. And we live in Los Angeles, which is sort of a center for so much media that's being created. And you're right, that was, I think that all of us can say that that's a part of why we are here, is because it's such a new thing, and we felt like capable of leaving the mark in this industry. It's a lot less rewarding to go into an industry that's already established. Here we get to kind of make it up as we go. Kind of fun.
I'm loving this discussion, and I'm also realizing that it is already 5:48. So we can go a little over 60 minutes, but I think we're going to end with one more question, some closing thoughts, and then we'll get to the questions that haven't been answered in the Q&A and have about a 10 to 15 minute Q&A. I definitely want to have a hard stop at 80 minutes. So there's a little bit of a break between this and Betty Martin coming all the way from Bali. I'm still blown away by that. But yeah, so let's do one more. Yeah, go ahead, Madeline.
I love Bruce's question in the chat. Are we going to have time for that one?
I absolutely am going to have time for Bruce's question, and there's two others above it that I've marked on my screen too. I'll leave it up to you guys in terms of what you want to ask, but we've talked about building this market and kind of origin stories, and we've gotten a little bit now into the nuts and bolts of what's going on now. What I really want to know is, where is your vision? Where is your vision for this industry, for your personal business's role in this industry? Where do you see all this going? So that's kind of what I'll want to end on before we do final thoughts. Madeline, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I can start by recapping a little bit, because I've talked a fair bit about this. I think the two things I want to highlight, I mean, there's more. This is a new paradigm. We talk about the Cuddle revolution. You know, to me, this is a revolution, and the Me Too, you know, campaign with consent. For years, I've been like, rather than teaching sexual harassment and fear around not being able to connect with people, teach people how to connect in very loving ways. So to me, this is a shift between the world paradigm of what not to do, you know, which is when we have all these hearts and bodies that want to connect, to what to do, how to do this in a safe, affectionate, loving, respectful way, how to separate sex from, you know, platonic, so that you can make good choices, you know, so that it's just, there's so many things. So that's kind of the broader vision for humanity, in that sense of a more loving, respectful, self-expressed world. And some of the Cuddleists' role in that, which are continuing to grow, is the network, the building the village, is being a village of practitioners who come together and know that we're working from the same philosophical foundation, the same ethics, the same guidelines. You know, we've got each other's backs, and we've got that, you know, supervision with each other and the best practices and support. I mean, I love Keely and Janet just had this beautiful interaction, and this is like kind of perfect for that, you know, the Cuddleist vision of how we can support each other and our clients all together in this work. And along with that, I guess the last part I've talked about that I'll recap is bringing this to the institutional setting, bringing this to, again, you know, the baby boomers are the largest segment of our population are, you know, in the 60s, like older and getting older, and hospice and all of this is exploding. And we have so much to give, so much love to improve the quality of life for so many people on this planet. So bringing it into that, bringing it into PTSD and the trauma that we're realizing, so much of us, I mean, we all have our personal stories, and Samantha said it so well, like the trauma that she grew up with. We all grew up with trauma, you know, in this world, and we're all holding that. So just, yeah, bringing that to more and more people who can feel safe with it.
I can go on.
I love it. Go ahead, Janet.
I'll piggyback on Madeline. So I'm all about creating trust, right? So when you were talking about institutions, that's kind of the idea as well, is making so that people in our communities, all our different cities, trust us, and they have clarity around what we do, as well as the medical community. So, you know, I live in a very strong military city here, and so for them to be able to trust us and to know that what this is, and again, being able to provide those services, as well as I think the other thing that I love to see this industry grow into is accepting people as whole people with all the different dimensions of who they are, and that we have practitioners that are really able to meet people where they're at. And it may be that they're really concerned about their erection. I mean, whatever the hell that is, like whatever it is, or they're really concerned about their sweating, or, you know, like the things that are human, and that we as practitioners can hold space for whatever they show up with, and they can be vulnerable and they can be scared, and that we can listen to that and honor it, and then find ways in which, how do we meet that person with what we're providing as well as who they are. So I think that's where I want to see us go, is having those spaces where people can be who they are.
Thank you.
I want to piggyback off of that. The world that I see is, I actually think I have the clients in mind. It is one where there's no stigma around our emotional needs for vulnerability, our needs to be seen and heard, and our needs for touch. I think there's a conversation that's happening more and more because of our existence, that actually touch is not just something that's of a luxury, or something that's only a part of a relationship, that it's actually essential for our wellness. So I think that's where we're all sort of headed here, is that this becomes, and I think, Madeline, this is something you said, that cuddling becomes a legitimate healing modality. That's what I see. So, you know, today I can talk without any shame at all about how I see my therapist every other week, and how we're working on things, and how it's great to have his support. And, you know, I still had stigma and shame going into therapy in the first place. But it's nothing compared to the stigma and the shame and the embarrassment that people bring into coming to services, to employ us for our services. So my vision as we are legitimizing this work with this professional conference, with the corporatization of touch, of, retail spaces where this can happen, things like that, that it becomes accessible and it becomes a part. It's just a need that you can get support around, even that if that includes, exchange of money, that's not a big deal anymore. So that's my vision for this world.
I love that. Samantha, final thoughts?
Madeline had something too.
Yeah, so
I did.
Can we hold on 1 second, Samantha? Sorry, Madeline, didn't see you. Go ahead.
Sorry, Samantha, it's real short. I was just wanted to say that Faye inspired as I was with my massage therapist today, lying naked under a sheet, having somebody massage me, with oil. I remember 30 years ago, there was there was a stigma around a wink, wink, nudge, nudge around massage therapy. And now again, it's so accepted and a good, self-care. So just a yes and. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Samantha.
So I guess for me, the thing that I've really come to terms with is that it's not about training the practitioners to accept the clients as not being predators. It's about getting every individual to empower themselves to understand and acknowledge where they're actually at, so that they can decide for their individual selves what makes sense for them and whether or not they want to move forward or stay where they're at, what their world is about. I want to empower people to have their own boundaries, to be able to have direct communication around what those things are, and to not have shame and guilt and all of these things built up around our vulnerabilities. To me, vulnerability is a beautiful and amazing thing. It's part of a fulfilling life. And I want to be a part of encouraging and providing space for people to learn how to have those really awkward conversations and to create a space where we can approach each other from a place of trust rather than fear.
I love that. Thank you all so much for this incredible panel. This was such a good, I feel hungry after this. I feel hungry for more. So it's such a good, even though we've been talking for nearly an hour, it feels very good to think of what's to come for September. So I am just so stoked. If anyone has any final thoughts, this is a great moment for it. Otherwise, I'm going to go back and look at a couple of the questions that were asked and kind of go through to see who and announce who asked them and save the questions so we can all answer them.
I just have one thought.
Yeah.
And that is, my world is a more authentic and more vulnerable and more real world. And it's full of connection because of you women who are here. I just have to say that. It's because of this work that you've created that I have access and I'm also doing now. So I think in so many ways, we've already succeeded. One life at a time, right, Madeline? So here we are.
I love it. Any other final thoughts?
I love you. You're all amazing.
That's what I do. Love and gratitude.
Huge heart bursts.
Yeah. Can't wait for September where we can actually hug each other.
Oh, thank goodness. That'll feel so good. So I'll start with Bruce. I think it was Janet who mentioned Bruce's really great question. First one he asked was, how can you make clients overcome the fear that they'll say the one thing that will make them get kicked out? How do you personally help that?
So I have a lot of techniques around this, and for me it starts with the consultation and building that trust instantly from the get-go, and then also building up my intuition around recognizing when somebody has something to say that they're not actually sharing, and acknowledging that in the moment, or creating space for that at the end of my session. It's something that happens all the time, and it's something that we have to address as quickly as possible, because the further they are from that, the less in touch they are with those feelings. So I am a big advocate for addressing it instantly.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. For me, this is all about, safety. Safety is the prerequisite. And so, at Cuddleist, I tell the trainees, all the time, I'm a broken record, that the client can only feel as safe as you feel. So that's your first job, right? Is to know what helps you feel safe. And this has to do with validating your needs and your boundaries and paying attention and being aware and, figuring that out, because I can't tell them what's going to make them feel safe. Right. So that's their first job. And it really is with that screening and that orientation process. How are you presenting yourself? How are you reaching out to the client? How are you responding to the client? How are you validating them? And then what is that dialogue? And so ideally every step of that way, that the client is getting that transmission that this is a safe space. This is a place where I want to see you and hear you and meet you exactly where you're at. And there's this little irony. I was screening a new client this morning, and we had a dialogue, and I thought I would share, the culmination. Well, this started, we had a little back and forth, and everything was great. And I said, that's fine, let's go ahead and schedule. And he said, one last question, it's a bit intimate. May I tell you, I hope you don't mind me asking. So there's that, that's what, when we create safety, that part can show up. It's always an invitation for that part to show up. And my response is, this is the time to not hold anything back. Put everything on the table that you're wondering about. Like just that encouragement. This is safe. Tell me what you would like to ask me. And, he revealed fears and concerns about pre-ejaculation and, dealing with that in a session and how that would be perceived. And, I just addressed it so honestly and so openly and gave practical suggestions for it and really affirmed him in it. And I got this beautiful response that says, "Oh, this made my day. For someone to take private and embarrassing information and return it with so much compassion. I appreciate you." This is what we get to do every day. Like, what's more rewarding than that? To feel that. So love begets love. It's just, so anyway, and we haven't even met, but this is the kind of that beautiful interaction. So thank you for the question, Bruce. And it's really, even the phrasing of it, the one thing that's going to get me kicked out. I feel like in myself, wow, this is the world we live in. How many of us have had that experience of saying the one thing, even as a kid, that something came out of my mouth where it was an authentic, genuine moment, and someone was like, "How dare you say that? How, how dare you be you?" And so this is, again, it's understandable because we're swimming in those waters, right? We all kind of have that around us, and people don't mean it. It's not intentional, but that is part of our vision, is to shift that paradigm, right? Respect, consideration, self-expression. We get to be who we are and meet other people who they are with respect.
This is what my hope is for CuddleXpo, is that we can all be together and talk about this stuff. I'm feeling right here in my chest some tightness around this question, because I hear those clients, right, on a regular basis, and they're really scared. And so one of the things that I made a video about was, I want all my clients, ask me for whatever you want. I mean, even the things on the code of conduct that are like, you do not do these things, ask me them. Like, ask me anything. So that I want to make it a really safe space, a brave space for them to ask anything, knowing that they can trust me, that I'm going to say no, and can we find something else? Or, can we talk about that? Or can I find out more about what that request is about? So instead of having, like, you can only ask these questions, how about you can ask any questions, and guess what? We are trained, or we understand, like, we can handle any question and any request, even if it's, can I take my shirt off? Right? And even though it's in the code of conduct, there's a lot, my fear is that there's code of conduct shaming. Like, did you read the code of conduct? Well, don't you know? And that shit is like, they're like, oh shit, I forgot. Like, I mean, all of our childhood shame issues has come up. So I'm like, forget the code of conduct. I'm assuming that, like, you may forget. That's cool. Like, I forget too. Just ask me anything. Anything's okay. And I think that's the conversation I want all of us to be able to have with anyone. It's on us to say, how we feel about that. No.
That takes so much work on the practitioner's part to be comfortable, right? Madeline, the thing that you said about we can't help clients feel safe unless we feel safe ourselves. And I know for me, in the years that I've been doing this, it was one of my hurdles was to not get triggered by the needs of my clients that I wasn't able to hold. that I wasn't interested. I'm still not interested in holding, but I'm not triggered by it anymore. I can see it and say, wonderful. I want you to have this. No, thank you.
Yes.
I have a burning share around this. This is both of what you've said is so important. This, part of the Cuddleist protocol is that opening trust agreement. We rely on each other. I promise you that if I am not comfortable with anything, I will let you know. And our job is to do that in the kindest, most respectful, open-hearted, loving, effective, clear way, to be trustworthy. And then the next part is to coach our clients on asking for what they want. Because a lot of my clients will say to me, well, how should we cuddle? What's the best way to cuddle? How do other people cuddle? And I say to them, I don't care, really. I want to know how you want to cuddle. I want to know what's in your heart. And I promise you, if you could ask for anything, because if I'm not okay with it, I'll let you know. I'm only going to do the things that I'm genuinely happy to do. That's a lot of the reason we're afraid that we don't ask for things, is the other person will be offended, or they'll do it, or they'll go along with it and not really want it. But that's that place of honesty and trust where we say, we're not going to play that game here. And when clients ask for anything, the first thing out of my mouth is always, thank you for asking. I'm so glad you asked, no matter what it is. And then I'll be honest with them about it.
That was one question, y'all. Do we have more?
I know. We only have time for about one more. And it's good because I think we have one more that I wanted to make sure that we got to. And this is someone who's asking anonymously. And they say, my girlfriend at lunch today said, I would see it as cheating if my husband was cuddled by you. And I didn't know what to say to her. How do you help change that view without shaming her or making her feel bad?
I want to say right off the bat, there's nothing we can do to not make her feel bad. That's the unfortunate truth, is that it is uncomfortable and her shame is going to come up, and there's nothing that we can do to control that. But there's other things that we can do to have a conversation that is authentic and grounded, and speak our truth and state what we need clearly without, putting the burden on the other person to care for it. I'm going to let the rest of you kind of go from there. Yeah.
My honest initial response is, it's not my job to change her view. And I don't have an interest in changing her view. And if she's not asking me to change her view, and it feels disrespect, that's her view, and I respect that. And it depending on the depth of our friendship, if she wants to hear my view, if she's genuinely interested or wants to hear why I do this or what I'm meaning, I'll be honest and open about that. And it's hard to tell from this exchange. But again, I'm not here to convert or preach. I'm here to be here for the people who want it, who need it.
I'd like to speak to how people think that cuddling is just, what we're doing is just cuddling. Like, it's just these two bodies that just come together, and that's what we do. And they better not rub, right? Like, that's what we do. And what I find that I think people forget is what we've been kind of alluding to, the boundaries and the consent. The ability to actually have a platonic experience, even if there's no or little touching. The ways in which, and I want to speak specifically to the male gender here, that they can actually learn to listen to someone else, right? And all the ways in which communication and boundaries and consent and also, I would say a lot of men have no idea what platonic is or what that looks like or how that's possible. And so I've made a video about please send me your men, send me your husbands, send me your boyfriends, show them how to do the thing so that they can come back and be a better platonic, I mean platonic at that point, but better listener, better asking for what they want, knowing how to speak to you, let me do that so that the burden isn't on you to do all that emotional labor. And what a relief. And I promise I will send them back to you better.
And you will definitely send them back.
Yes.
You're not gonna keep them.
Otherwise, like the other option is that they have an affair, they go to somebody else. Like there are boundaries here, and I don't want a relationship beyond this professional one. It's safe. It's actually a very safe container to get these things learned. Yeah.
I love it. We're out of time. We're gonna have to close. We can't get to any more questions. Although I do love that Dwight did mention in the Q&A about, as a male cuddlist, he does a lot of outreach to men and women to be comfortable around cuddling, and asks what we can do to open a way for like this parity of clients for male and female cuddlers. And I love that he asked that, and that's what we're ending on, because that is going to be a wonderful thing to hear at the CuddleXpo in September. We're going to have male cuddlers talking about just that, and kind of that unique perspective, because that's not necessarily the people on this panel's lane. We can't necessarily talk about the experience of a male cuddler and how to address that necessarily in the world as efficiently and as accurately as a male cuddler can. So it was a perfect thing to leave off on.
Yeah, thank you, Keely. Yoni is going to be heading up that discussion. So we are
Yes, Yoni is a male cuddlist.
They do exist. I feel like the M&Ms and Santa right there. I want to say a huge, just warm, gooey thank you to all of you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, sharing your time, sharing your expertise, and sharing your love with everyone, with all of us on the call. We're going to end here. If there's any final thoughts, we don't have time for them. But thank you for sharing all your thoughts. And then we're going to take a little break before we go over to our final presentation from Betty Martin, and that starts in 45 minutes. That'll start at 7 p.m. Central, which is 3 p.m. Pacific. Is that right, Faye?
5 p.m. Pacific.
5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central. So you guys can stick around for that. Is there anything I'm missing, Faye, in the pass off?
Yeah, we have to give a big thank you to our sponsors. So I'm going to open up the slide here. I think. Here we go. Will you do the honors, Keely?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. These are currently the companies that have brought CuddleXpo online to you. They are many of the people here on this panel are what's represented here, including Cuddle Comfort, and holding space is Lisa, our tech guru, and they are supporting this community. They're holding it up. CuddleXpo is a completely volunteer run and all out of pocket, primarily Faye's. So when people like these incredible businesses support us, it means that we can do this. And that's what you are doing when you buy your ticket for CuddleXpo. If you can buy a VIP ticket, it's pretty swanky, not gonna lie. Then please do. Otherwise, you can buy the early bird ticket. Is going to end here in a month or two. I can't remember the date, but
May
the early
13th.
bird ticket will
Yeah.
end